For Fisher.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I am a proud regional member, a federal member of Parliament that represents regional Queensland, the Sunshine Coast, the beautiful, the magnificent Sunshine Coast. And I'm very proud because I represent amazing people, amazing businesses in a magnificent part of the world. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, we all remember that Telstra ad where the woman sticks her head out the window when she realises that her secretary hasn't paid for the yellow pages and she says, "Not happy, Jan." Well, Mr Deputy Speaker, I am not happy today, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. 2 years ago, the federal member for Fairfax and I stood up and announced that we'd secured $1.6 billion for heavy passenger rail to come into the Sunshine Coast. Now, for 2 years, we tried to kick and drag the state Labor government into action to match the former coalition government's $1.6 billion commitment to rail into the Sunshine Coast. For 2 years, the state Labor government did absolutely nothing. They sat on their hands. Shame. They dithered, they delayed, they made up every excuse under the sun as to why this couldn't be done. For 2 years. And lo and behold, yesterday morning, the new Labor Premier stood up and said, "You know what, we're going to do this. But we're not going to do it all." So because this state Labor government delayed for 2 years, we've seen costs blow out from an estimated cost of $3.2 billion to somewhere between $5 and $7 billion. But here's the rub. It's only for a third of the job. This state Labor government wants to now build rail into one of the fastest growing regions in our country, where we're going to be hosting the Olympics and the Paralympic Games in 2032, and it's only going to take the rail from Biwa to Caloundra, not Biwa, Caloundra, Kawana, Maroochydore. So we're getting a third of the rail for more than twice the price. What? For more than twice the price. Unbelievable. The state Labor government should hang their heads in shame. And there's also a degree of culpability from this federal government as well. Because when this federal government came into power, they of course announced their now infamous 90-day review, which dragged all infrastructure projects out almost for infinity. This 90-day review was more like a 12-month or 18-month review. And when this government finally made an announcement, when the Labor federal government made an announcement, it was that they are setting aside the $1.6 billion that the former coalition government had committed to. Now, as a lawyer, when you set something aside, of course you'd know this, Mr Deputy Speaker, when you set something aside, you're rejecting it. They are setting it aside. What does that mean? Does that mean you're putting it aside, you're reserving it, or that you're rejecting it? We can't get straight answers out of the infrastructure minister, the federal infrastructure minister, as to what they're going to be doing with their planned $1.6 billion that the former coalition government committed to, and we had to drag this Labor government kicking and screaming also to keep that funding in. Mr Deputy Speaker, with the last few moments I've got, those members opposite talk the big talk about housing. But in this 90-day review, this federal government scrapped $160 million from the Mooloolah River interchange. More than 100 families were evicted from their homes to build the Mooloolah River interchange. More than 100 homes were demolished to build this interchange, and now $160 million has been ripped out of it by this callous federal government, and now the project may not even go ahead at all. How is that fair? Those members opposite talk the big talk about infrastructure and housing, but they just don't care.